What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Dime Dropper. After a couple of days off, we are back with our 24-minute recap, number 82. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe on all platforms at YouTube at Dime Dropper Podcast, Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify, and of course, to follow us on all social media platforms at Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Dime Dropper Pod. And Instagram, if I didn't say that one. So for tonight's episode, we're going to probably go maybe the distance, maybe around 20 minutes. We're going to talk about the game that occurred tonight. The Clippers coming up with breaking their 3-game losing streak, 105-100 against the Toronto Raptors. And then we're going to talk about the Lakers' win last night against the Denver Nuggets and their recent injury situations. And we will give our flowers to one Russell Westbrook, who has completely revived a dime dropper team from the beginning of the season. Let's start with the Clips. We were playing against the Toronto Raptors tonight, and we were down, 3 games in a row. Kyle Lowry rested tonight, back tightness. I don't want to hear it. I just watched him drop 37 points against the Lakers. Clearly, the Toronto Raptors have thrown in the towel this season, and they don't care to make the playoffs. That's what I'm seeing. The way they played, you would think differently. But if Kyle Lowry played tonight, could they have won that game? I think they would have had a better chance. And, so I think they would have had a better chance. So tonight we got good news, Clipper Nation. Patrick Beverley back in the lineup. He has missed over half the season with various injuries. This one was a fracture to his finger, I believe. So to have Pat Bev back is always good, especially a couple games before the playoffs, so he can kind of gain some form back, gain some rhythm. The way we started the game, though, not horrendous, but the Raptors were just one step quicker than us, one step more lively than us, a step more aggressive, and they were hitting their shots. I thought the Nick Nurse strategy of taking the ball out of Kawhi's hands worked really well. It got him really out of sync, and it got him to be less hungry. He wasn't looking for a shot. He was kind of more comfortable letting other guys go. And every single screen at the top, with whether it was Paul George or Kawhi handling the ball, they would throw 2 at him, hedge and recover, force Zoo to roll. And a lot of those times on those short rolls, Zoo doesn't slip quick enough, for me. Like Draymond and Green is probably the best in the NBA. That quick slip, in a pick and pop, quick slip, he gets the ball and then makes the 4-on-3 read. That's what he does best. Zoo, he's a little slower. He's not as good with the ball. He still can make those reads, but he needs to slip a little bit quicker. And I think that Kawhi also made a poor pass in the second quarter that we got punished on those short rolls. And I thought that the Raptors were just really good in this game. I thought that it was interesting in the beginning. They were just making everything. I mean, Siakam was hitting some tough floaters. Fred VanVleet had an amazing night, but he's just a really good player. 27 points and 13 assists for FVV, 10 of 24 from the field and 5 of 14 from 3. Both him and Siakam each played 40-plus minutes. VanVleet with 41, Pascal with 42. Pascal finished with 24 points and 7 boards. He also had 3 steals to go along with his shooting percentage his shooting numbers of 10 of 24 from the field. Overall, though, I'd say, so Yuta Watanabe hit 2 open threes. Gillespie, I don't even know how you say his name, came in and got a putback dunk in the late first quarter or early second quarter. The Clippers were down by 4 after 1, and the reason why we were only down by 4, despite the fact that Toronto played so well in that first quarter, was because Marcus Morris Sr. was aggressive. He was getting in his areas, in that mid-post area, getting to his mid-range, and Paul George was being hella aggressive. He was not shooting threes in the beginning of that game. He was going straight downhill to the basket. And if you guys listen to my show regularly, that's what I like to see from him. Because even though he doesn't get calls, you need to keep putting pressure on the officials. You need to keep going to the basket. And that's what he did. And he set the tone for us, in my opinion. But something a little different was because Paul had 2 fouls and because Kawhi is still on a slight minute restriction, we went with a total bench unit in that second quarter. And what I mean by total bench is no staggering of Kawhi and Paul George, not one of them in the lineup at all times. They were both on the bench. We went with the lineup that I really liked in terms of personnel, but they haven't played together before. DeMarcus Cousins at the 5, Nick Batum at the stretch 4, and then Terrence, Rondo, and Bev. And I thought that Terrence was very quiet. I thought that the defense was sagging off of him a lot. especially with Rondo in the game. So having two guys with and Terrence has really improved his three ball. They just didn't respect it. And Rondo, in my opinion, tonight wasn't very good. He was minus 12. I think he still did some great things. He still had 5 assists. He still had 3 steals. I still think he had some nice plays in transition, some nice finds, but he turned the ball over way too much. I thought he dribbled too much. I thought that when Kawhi came back into the game in that second quarter when we were down like 4 or 5 points, I thought that Rondo didn't look to get him involved enough. And this is a guy, Kawhi, who had only shot like twice in that first quarter. I think it's the job of somebody as good as Rajon to look to get Kawhi going. But, I thought he was just dribbling a little too much. And here's the thing about Rajon is that he needs to keep the defense honest. You know what I'm saying? When he gets the ball in a kick out, he's passing up too many shots. He's not as bad of a shooter as sometimes he thinks and other people think. He needs to keep getting shots up, though. I want him to have the mentality that catch and shoot. You know what I'm saying? Because he's really, honestly, has improved his shot. And I honestly always thought that he has slept on his own jumper a little bit. And he hasn't even been bad since he's been on the Clippers. I mean, he's shooting 37% from 3 this regular season. I'll take that. I mean, that's not that much worse than certain other guys on our team. I just think that when he catches the ball and the defense is closing out hard or somewhat hard or kind of just they want him to shoot the 3 essentially. But when guys like Kawhi and Paul draw attention and then he's not catching and shooting, it hurts. You want to see Rajon keep the defense honest. Patrick Beverley, though, I thought he had a really solid return offensively. 8 points, 3 of 5 from the field, and 2 of 3 from 3. He even had a nice floater contested on the run. That was not an easy shot. He didn't really get too many opportunities or too many minutes to kind of gain his Patrick Beverley type of rhythm back on the defensive end. I appreciate you, Intel Wild, for the donation. But going into the half, down 6, I just didn't like the lack of urgency, so to speak. And one thing I will say also, I thought Boogie was really good, at least on offense. I thought that he was posting up, and I thought he was doing good things. 7 points, 3 of 4, so very efficient. My thing also was with Reggie Jackson in the first half is that he thought he was Damian Lillard. He just kept chucking, and I know he's been unbelievable shooting the ball this season. But, yeah, I mean, he's shooting freaking 44% from 3. I mean, that's got to be one of the highest in the league for that many attempts. But, I thought he was jumping the gun a little bit too much tonight. And, sometimes when Rondo or Kawhi kicks it out to you, it's tempting to shoot it right away. But sometimes we have more time on the shot clock. You got to relax. And I thought that there was, some possessions. And Rondo and Reggie both do this. I'm more comfortable with Rondo doing it because his decision-making is better. But there are times sometimes where they take 14 seconds to get into our set. If we're just going to do a simple high pick and roll, can we just do that within like the first 6-7 seconds? I know there's a lot of misdirection, but let's get into our stuff quick. Because when you do that, and then Kawhi gets a switch or something, and you want to give him the ball, and he's got 4 seconds to work, that's just putting him in a very difficult situation. And I think Reggie did that once tonight. But let's go to the second half where I thought we picked up our intensity a good amount, especially on defense. We were just a little more aggressive getting over screens. And I thought that our ball movement was a little better, less Reggie hot dogging stuff, just more quick movement of the ball, a little bit swifter decisions by Zubats. He even went up strong for some dunks in the second half. That's what I like. He got the ball on that short roll, and he was like, no one's in front of me. No one's going to pick me up. They're all going to worry about Batum and Reggie and the shooters. Let me just go in and throw it down. And he did that a couple times, and I really like that. 8 points for Zoo on 4 of 6 from the field. Plus 21, which was our highest, but he was not our best player. That's why you can't fully look at plus minus all the time. But he did have a solid impact. I thought that Marcus Morris Sr., though, was probably our best player. Just because he was so consistent throughout the game and making shots. Even in that third quarter, Marcus Morris Sr. off the catch. How many times do I have to say it? He gets the ball. He not only can hit a shot with a tight closeout or a good contest, he can pump fake and take you and step into that mid-range game. He can get, and here's the thing about Senior. I love the areas in which he operates, that mid-post. But Kawhi tonight, in my opinion, was way too hesitant because they're double teaming. Listen, double teaming is not an excuse. When you have the ball at the top of the key and they're double teaming you, yes, I understand you want to get rid of the ball. But the reason why Michael Jordan and Kobe, especially Jordan, was so unstoppable and why Kareem is so unstoppable is because guys that have post game, like a Kawhi, you can bring the double from either side. Unless you bring a triple and sandwich him, you can turn over either shoulder. That's the beauty of the post game. And I think that Kawhi too often, and Marcus Morris Sr. was doing exactly that. And, he's not going to get the same attention as a Kawhi, but hypothetically, there were times where they were like, they're about to cheat, and Senior's like, if you don't, here's the thing with those type of guys, you can't just or shade or just sit there, because with guys like a Jordan or a Kobe or that have that turnaround, if you don't fully commit to a double team, it's a one-on-one situation. You can be standing behind your man, you're ready to help. Ready to help doesn't cut it when guys pull over you. So Kawhi, in my opinion, he was just too. We need him to be our best player to win the championship. I want him to shoot 15 to 20 shots a game in these last couple of games. I mean, let's see how many games we have left. 6. He needs to get a lot of shots up, because here's my thing. I understand he wants to keep Paul George comfortable. He wants Paul to be in the best mental state and best confidence state that he could possibly be in. At the same time, Paul is not reliable, and we know this. And Kawhi needs to – I know he's just come back. I know it's his second game back. But he played how many minutes tonight? 33, 6 shots. I know the defense was good. I'm not saying that he could have gotten 15 plus tonight. Maybe he wasn't that night. He made the right reads. I thought Kawhi made the right play more often than not tonight. And I think that in the fourth quarter, Nick Batum, 3 of 6 from him, 1 of 4 from the three-point line, but a big steal and a dunk in that fourth. He had 7 points. But it was really Paul George that shut the door. And I thought Paul was, he slowed down after that first quarter where he was going to the basket. But Paul with a huge 3 on an extra swing by, I think it was Reggie Jackson. And then Kawhi kick out to Reggie Jackson. And there were often times tonight where Kawhi or Boogie or Senior, mostly Kawhi and Boogie though, and Paul George, would get double teamed. And we are either not passing quick enough or somebody is not cutting from the weak side, and it's too easy for defenses to play 2 guys on the perimeter. I talked about this before. So we need to make sure that we keep moving without the ball, but we need to make sure we keep moving it quick, especially guys like Reggie. He really, for my liking, holds on to it too long. And I'd rather have a Kennard, but at the same time, here's my thing. My one concern is this. We've had so much in and out, and now we have Boogie, who's been great, and we don't know what's going on with Serge. We are not going to have any type of set rotation going into the playoffs. And that concerns me a little bit. But when you look at the competition and you look at the field and you look at Jamal Murray's out and you look at Lakers and all the problems that they've had, you feel a little bit more confident. But when you look at Phoenix and Utah, they've been very, very, consistent with just their lineups and having the same players over and over again to kind of learn each other's tendencies and haven't had too much in and out. So that's the one thing with them, is their chemistry is significantly higher, in my opinion. I'm not saying ours isn't high, but we've just had so much in and out. Now Patrick Beverley's back. Like, what are we going to do? Ty said after the game, he's going to choose game time decision it who's starting between Reggie and Bev in the playoffs. To me, if this is a league where you can do that and get away with it, by all means, but I've never seen that work before. I've never seen somebody go into a playoffs without a set. I mean, here's the thing. We saw the Lakers tinker with it last year in the bubble a little bit. And then, you know what? Maybe in the last couple of years, it's shifted a bit. I mean, you had games with the Warriors where they had started JaVale sometimes. They start Looney, and then sometimes maybe they wouldn't even start either. But I don't know. I'm more comfortable with a set unit, but we will see, man. We will see. I thought it was a good win. I thought Paul George, I can't forget about this huge charge he took at the end of the game after he made his 3. So Paul George and we got to give him his flowers when he closes out games, because we always give him shit when he fucks up. So Paul George was awesome down the stretch tonight. He really made the big plays to get us over the hump and get us a win that we kind of really didn't really deserve much. I thought Toronto was really good, but we shut him down in the fourth. They only scored 18 points. And I thought that Paul George, really led that charge, in my opinion. 105-100 is the final. My Clippers bounce back. They move on to 25-9 at home, 44-22 on the season, which puts us half a game above the Nugs for third place. And if the playoffs started today, we'd be facing the old hallway neighbors. And speaking of the Devils, let's go to them now. The Lakers winning last night by a score of 93-89 to the Denver Nuggets. It was one of their best wins, in my opinion, of the season. I think it's the closest Anthony Davis has looked to his old self since he's come back. He had 26 points, I believe, or 25 points. 25 points on 9 of 19 from the field. I watched this game. I thought that Jokic got off to a good start. But after that, I think the Lakers did a very solid job on him, especially the man who changed the entire game late in that second quarter, Marc Gasol. I think it's quite evident now, ladies and gentlemen, Andre Drummond is sad in terms of like his basketball talent. Like, bro has no skill. His fundamentals are really ass. His footwork is choppy as hell. His finishing is trash. His lateral movement is poor. He's slow in the pick and roll. He has poor defensive awareness. He's just a good for the occasional block, and he's a good rebounder, and he's a bruiser. But I don't really know if that's good for the Lakers because Anthony Davis, we've talked about this several times. Anthony Davis, he becomes too much of a perimeter player when he's playing with an interior big. And that is not good, in my opinion, for AD because despite the fact that he's got those guard skills and he can hit 18-footers and threes, every single team is okay with Anthony Davis shooting 18-footers or beyond. They are totally chill with that. He's not dominating. He's not getting to the free throw line from there. So it's not a problem. Everybody's okay with Drummond. Everybody's okay. And that's the thing. Why did the Lakers rock the boat so much? And here's my thing. Damian Jones was sitting there, and he was the more athletic rim protector kind of guy that they've had this season. And I think that, Marc Gasol is not perfect. He is fairly slow-footed at this stage of his career. He's not great when you pull him into space. However, I think that Laker fans were looking too much at the fact that the team isn't perfect, maybe not as good as last year, and not realizing that maybe they were still the best team in the league. And Marc Gasol, I think, was slighted because of that, and I think people slept on the fact of all the good things he did. And I say this all the time. You guys listen to my show. You cannot substitute basketball brains. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're to the point where you are just incapable of playing in terms of your physical fitness and skill level and age. If you can get on the court and hold your own, if you got that IQ, you are way more valuable than a guy that can put up great numbers or looks fancy and has a ton of skill. This fool Marc Gasol came in and changed the game, not just with his threes, with his ability he kind of was in that Jokic role for a sec, getting the ball at the top of the key and everybody cutting off of him because he can thread the needle. And he was able to, one thing I like about Marc is he gets the rebound old school, Bill Russell style. Look up, let's go, outlet passes. And he just plays the right way. And on defense, he's smart. He doesn't – first of all, this fool Drummond, I said he was bad in the pick and roll. He was getting cooked in the post too. Like, fools don't know how to guard the – they see a good post defender nowadays, and they just don't know what to do. And his Cantor – these guys don't know how to guard in the post, bro. I knew that when we had DeAndre Jordan. Anytime he gone up against a skilled center, cooked. And that fool was first team all defense. That's what shows you that we were in the worst era of big men ever. I honestly think we're getting into a slightly better era because of Jokic and Embiid being so good, like best center since Shaq for me. And Jokic was just ridiculous in the Clipper game, but the Lakers, because of Gasol, he was able to be physical with him. He has a similar body type, and he was able to push him sometimes further away from the basket and just put a hand up and make life tough for him. And honestly, Ismon Trader, like, he only got 10 minutes. And here's the thing. I said that the key for playing around Montrader was going to be key for Vogel to figure out if they wanted to succeed with him long term. However, is Drummond much better? Like, because Montrader has more skill than Drummond, like way more. Like, Montrader, he actually has low post moves. He has really solid touch around the basket. He's an elite finisher. Like, I honestly think that as much as, all the stuff I say about him, like, he could adapt to any era of basketball. Like, he could play. Like, he can finish. He's relentless. He has the motor. I just don't know I know his defense is bad, but like, Drummond has a little more size, but if I'm a Laker fan, I don't know about how I feel about Montrader's minutes getting sacrificed for this guy. I think this just goes to show another reputation of Name over game. And the game, and here's the thing, this guy's 0-8 in the playoffs, and it's not coincidental. I know he wasn't supposed to beat LeBron. I wasn't supposed to beat Giannis, but the fact that you couldn't get one game, and those games were close, mind you, against Cleveland. He's just like, and I saw him against Milwaukee in 2019. He was terrible. He couldn't score around the rim. It was ridiculous. And against better defenses, I'm telling you, like that's probably going to happen. I think that, as I said, when the second the Lakers picked him up, the best reason, the best move, the best thing that came out of the Drummond move was if they play Brooklyn, because they literally lack that bruiser, unless they play with DeAndre, which would be interesting. But anyway, a great win for the Lakers. I thought that, no Dennis Schroeder, but Caruso made a ton of big plays. AD had a huge block at the end of the game against Facundo Campasso. And I think that, guys, that guy, keep an eye out for him, Facu, because he's going to make a fucking dirty play in the playoffs. I can see it already, bro. He's got that in him where he's going to, cheap shot the fuck out of someone. I can see it. Just know that you heard it here first. Anyway, who else? AD did his thing. THT was good. Wes Matthews, extremely streaky, but last night you got the best side of him. 3 of 3 from the field and 2 of 3 from 3. So a good win for the Lakers, 93-89. But the problem is LeBron James is out for 2 more games. They're playing us next. We got to win that game. No excuse to lose to the Lakers without LeBron. But this guy's not going to get that many games, man. This is going to be tough. This is going to be really tough. I would still put my money on the Lakers in the first round against if they play anybody but us. If they're playing us, I would not put my money on them. Just because you know why? It's the first round. And because the Clippers don't have a first round curse, we have a second round curse. And I believe that we beat the Lakers in the first round. I really would. Because LeBron, he can come back against the Damian Lillard when he's 5 games before the playoffs. Not Kawhi, Paul George, Nick Batum, Ty Lue, Rondo. You can't. I just don't believe so. And you know what? He can make me eat my words if we play. But again, I still don't think something's going to happen in which we don't play, because 36 years of history is on my side. I have a feeling that the 37th year will stand true, at least for the first round, but you never know. And honestly, I don't want to care at this point. Let's just go for it. Jugular. If we lose, we lose. And then I don't know what kind of mental state I would be in, but we'll see. Anyway, I want to close the show out before we go to the live subscribers. And we're going to talk about Russell Westbrook real quick. This guy has done a lot of great things in his career. He's averaged a triple-double 3 times. This now is going to be the 4th. But this season with Washington may be his greatest accomplishment of all. Because guys like me and many other people, I was giving up on this team. Even my Wizards fan friends, Wizards suck. Let's just tank. We were done. I said that this team, I was like, there's the injury problems. Rui Hachimura is always out. Thomas Bryant tore his ACL. Westbrook did not look like himself in the beginning of the season. Now we found out he had a torn quad the whole time. And Bradley Beal was starting to get disinterested with the fact that he was just putting up 30 points, and it didn't really matter. It wasn't really scaring anybody. Everybody's like, okay, we're going to let Brad get his 30 coming off picks and, do a little occasional pick and roll pull-ups, but it's not going to affect the game much. And we had the whole free Beal stuff happening. And, you saw Beal start to pout and start to whine a little bit. And he started to look like he was going to succumb to the outside pressure and maybe request a trade. And Scott Brooks has been so bad. And then Russell Westbrook took that hiatus. And he completely – I heard that rumor about how he had a team meeting. And he was like, guys, we're all going to, things are going to start changing around here. And he has backed it up. This is pure pride and heart. You know what? Russ may never win a championship. I probably don't think he will. But you know what? I will always respect the fact that he is going to give it his all no matter what. And in the beginning of the season, it didn't look like that. And it's clearly because he was injured. He took that time off. He has given 110% to revive this team. I said I was going to stop talking about them because they're done. I admittedly and happily admit to being wrong on this one. Russell Westbrook is taking this team to that play-in game, And you know what? He could lose. It does not matter because he made sure he said, you know what? I'm going to be in the playoffs or play in. I'm not going to be sitting at home watching on TV with Bradley Beal on my team and just let people say that I didn't even make the play-in with Bradley Beal. With throughout all the circumstances, the terrible defensive personnel, the bad coaching, the injuries to various players, he has put on a historic run over the last month or two, and he refused to go down. That is why Westbrook is a legend. That is why he will always be one of my favorite players, and that is why he is always somebody you should show your kids. And just that is what I'm talking about. Pride in you, what you do. Russell Westbrook, man, and Stephen A's been taking very unfair shots at him this season. Look, we know what Russell Westbrook is at this stage of his career. We're not comparing him to Steph. We're not comparing him to Chris Paul. But to take teams to places, to take them to the playoffs, to carry a group of guys, maybe when you don't have the most talent on your team, there are a few guys in this league that you would take over Russell Westbrook. And there are a few guys in this league that play with the same intensity as Russell Westbrook on a year in, year out basis. And I think we need to cherish him for what he is. That's it for me tonight, guys. We're going to go to the live subscribers now with Super Chats turned on. What's up, y'all? Waiting patiently. No lag yet, huh? What is up, motherfuckers? Drummond grilling. Good, everybody grilling Drummond. A lot of Drummond grilling. I want aggressive Kawhi. Last night's win against the Denver McChicken Nuggets, says Intel Wild. Andre Drummond is so bad. My grandma jumps higher than Drummond. I didn't trash Gasol whatsoever. I only addressed his attitude when not getting tick. Trez is way better on offense. Campazzo is a dog, though. Facundo. Lake Show says, if you lost the Lakers, what would reaction be? Them being shorthanded. Nothing crazy because we've lost to shorthanded teams this season already. So, no, Westbrook's not a top 5 point guard ever. He's not even top 10. Kidding? That doesn't, again, it's not a sign of disrespect. Like, I love Westbrook. It's my guy. But, like, I prioritize guys that I can trust with the ball in the playoffs, and this dude falls for the bait every time. Like, he just gets baited into jumpers and being reckless and throwing the ball away. Like, I can't have that. But I love Russ, though. Like, make no mistake about it. Like, if you want a floor raiser, as they say, just a guy to, like, take you places, then take a shitty team, like, Russ is definitely top 10. Yeah, Westbrook is better than Beal because he leads a group of men. Beal will score, but he doesn't galvanize the troops like Russ. Russ is the reason why this team turned around. I said in the beginning of the season, I said Russ is the X factor. When he plays well, they're going to win. But, and that's what's happening. Russ is so passionate. Preach time. Man, I want to talk about the Knicks a little bit. Can you believe the Knicks are going to make the playoffs? Lucas was right. It's so crazy. I said they were going to be the worst team in the league. They're going to make the fucking playoffs. Not even the play-in, the playoffs. They're going to make it. And I said they're going to be the worst team in the league. If Westbrook ends up being in the Stockton, Malone, Ewing, Barkley conversation, first of all, I don't think he is in that conversation. Charles Barkley was ridiculous, man. Like, Charles Barkley is better than Russ. Let me just be honest, guys. I love him. Like, I love Russ. As the best player, he hasn't even taken his team out of the first round. And he had 2 great chances to do it. Charles Barkley's taking his team to the finals, man. He's losing to Jordan. Like, this is a totally different caliber of player we're talking about. Like, that's Charles Barkley, man. I love Russ. And the stats, they look similar. That's not that. No. Cornrows. Get out of here, Lake Show. I don't think Russ will be in that conversation. I think Russ will be in a different conversation with guys like Gilbert Arenas. No, I'm just kidding. He's better than Gilbert Arenas. I think I got Westbrook in like the Iverson, Trace, not even. I got Westbrook in like the McGrady conversation. Like, that's the type of conversation I would put Westbrook in. Like, just stupid athletic, like just a great talent. But when push comes to shove, I just don't think. Hoops Point asked me who's better, CP3 or Booker. Booker's better. Right now, Booker's better. I think Chris Paul, though, he does things that, are extremely valuable that Booker doesn't bring. He's not experienced like that. But when my team plays the Suns, Booker is the one that worries me more. Chris Paul's great, though. I think when it comes to like the last couple of minutes of the game, Chris Paul's really good. But Booker will make that last shot. What's my thoughts on the Warriors, Maniac? I think you're going to be in the play-in probably, and I think that I would take my chances with Steph against Memphis. Like I would take my chances with Steph. Barkley's an undersized power forward. Shaq could come out of retirement after seeing how bad Andre is playing. Dime, what year did you stop becoming a LeBron supporter? Well, when he came to the Lakers, I realized that I couldn't really like him like that anymore. But the year that I really like turned on him was after I heard that he was going for Kawhi. I just lost all respect because I realized that I thought that he was better than Kevin Durant. Like I thought that he wasn't willing to take the easy way out anyway because he wants to be compared to Mike. Like, and if you want to be compared to Mike, you can't just have like guaranteed rings. And some people think that the Miami was guaranteed. I don't think it really was. I think he still had to play really well. I just think that it was like basically a guarantee that he was going to win at least one when he went to Miami. Like if he hadn't won one, it would have been such a joke. But I would say when I heard that he was going for Kawhi even after AD, because I thought he was going to get AD and be like, yo, let's tool the team with some spot-up shooters, like what they eventually did. I just didn't think that he wanted, like he was willing to go that route to go get Kawhi. And when I heard he was like actively recruiting and then rumors that he went to Philly, I was like, okay, bro, like I thought this guy was my role model, but it turns out he is like what everybody says, like what all the haters say. Like he is the pioneer of taking the easiest way out. And like, I don't respect that. So like, I can't like him anymore. That just doesn't go against. And now I have every reason not to because he's on the Lakers and the Clipper-Laker dynamic has never been more intense than now, I guess you can say, because of the Kawhi snubbing the Lakers. So I guess, no, Westbrook is not better than Nash or Kidd. Are you insane? No way. Those guys, here's the thing. As I said before, brains always win out for me. And here's the thing about Russ. He's largely played in when he's thrived in an era with so much spacing, and he's a guy that does not have a consistent jump shot that can get to the rim all the time. If he was playing more in the past, like it would just be so hard. They would just build walls all the time. Like, and there's no defensive three in the key. I just think that Russ, I think he would be great in any other era because Russ has the mentality. But I just think that, like, again, for offensive players, like, if you don't have a mid-range, like, and I know Russ used to have that pull-up mid-range. Like, that used to be cash for him. And I think that if he had that mid-range now, like, more consistently, like, he would have had a little more success in the playoffs than he did against Portland and Utah. But he kind of seemed to lose that jumper. But anyway, that's what I think. No, I don't think he's better than Nash or Kidd. First of all, Jason Kidd took his team to the finals, like with no score on Paul George's Galaxy. Anyway. Nate Archibald. Oh, look, my boy Simpleton Study Hall in the building. Westbrook to me is like Nate Archibald and Allen Iverson. They put up great numbers, but ultimately can't be the number one in a championship team. Tiny Archibald was a great call. That's a great comparison. Led the league in scoring and assists, just like Russ, but he couldn't really be that one guy on a real playoff championship contender. That's a really good comparison. 360p Sprite asked, do you think that the Pelicans have what it takes to make the play-in despite injuries? I think that, how many injuries have they really had? I think that they're just a poorly constructed roster. I think that Zion isn't very good at defense. And I think that they struggle to close games. I think, here's my thing about the Pels. They're disappointing for sure, but not to me, because I called this out before. I said they were going to finish 11th before the season. And oh, wait. Looks like they're going to finish 11th. Except I didn't think it was because Memphis. I said Minnesota because I was being generous because I like D'Lo and Karl Anthony Towns. And when D'Lo and Karl Anthony Towns play, they are a very decent team. But they are always in the infirmary. So Memphis. It's just like Memphis is just that team that like they're just so under the radar that like we just don't know how good they really are, and they're better than everyone thinks they are because we just don't watch them play enough. But anyway, I'm happy for these teams that – what are you saying here? I'm happy for these teams that turn it around like the Knicks and the Wizards, says Gab Story. Raptors Nation asks, what do you think about Big Booty Lowry's Hall of Fame chance on Basketball Reference? He has an 86% chance of making the Hall of Fame. If you were to retire now, what's your thoughts on Big Booty Lowry? I think there's the thing about Kyle. I think that he has a good case to be in the Hall of Fame, but my problem is I've recently found out that guys like Gus Williams and Walter Davis aren't in the Hall of Fame, and Sean Kemp, and Kevin Johnson. So if these guys aren't in the Hall of Fame, there's no way that Lowry should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. And Chris Webber, this is ridiculous. I have to reevaluate who's in the Hall of Fame. No, my answer is no. Although I'll accept if you were to throw the guys I just named in there. First of all, until Gus Williams and Walter Davis are in the Hall of Fame, I don't understand how that's possible. And Chris Webber, what the hell's good with that? But yeah, I think that I wouldn't be opposed, Raptors Nation, but I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Lowry was good. He was underrated in that. Lowry's been great in this 2010s. He was underrated in your championship run. However, he made the All-Star team largely because he was in one of the weakest, if not the weakest, Eastern Conference in the history of the game. So that's all I have to say about that. Claudio Ferry says, sup, Dime. I love your channel, man. Tonight's game, the Clippers of last year would have lost. Clippers were still poor tonight, but pulled it out in the clutch. I feel you on that. Oh, I miss Brandon Roy Collins, dang. Simpleton Study Hall says, I have Magic Johnson, Steph Curry, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Isaiah Thomas, John Stockton, Walt Frazier, Jason Kidd, Gary Payton, and Steve Nash all over Westbrook. You see, my friends, Simpleton Study Hall is what you call a student of the game. And I 110% agree with all the names that he listed. 110%. Walt Frazier, man, this guy is the most underrated point guard the game has ever seen. I'm seeing there's so many lists out there, bro. Guys, we don't understand how good this guy is. The footage is there. Check out my folders. I'm gonna make a 70s folder though, because it'll have more Frazier footage. This dude, both ends of the floor. His mid-range is cash, and he makes it way tougher shots than they do now. Chris Paul comes off screens more often than not. He still hits shots with big guys on him, but Chris Paul has the luxury of being able to dribble the ball in a different way where he can create separation so easy. Walt Frazier has to dribble the basic style. He has to just pull with dudes draped all over his face, and he makes it still. And he's just so good. And here's my thing with Frazier. The way Chris Paul closed out games in the regular season in the last couple of minutes, that's him in the finals though. Not no second round bullshit. So and plus he should have won finals MVP in 1973. That shit pisses me off that he didn't because it hurts his legacy because he's the first point guard that's the best player on a championship team. Simpleton Study Hall, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Unless Cousy was the best player on the 57 Celtics, but I don't know about that. Wouldn't you give the edge to Bill? Frazier may be the first point guard that's the best player on a championship team. Looks like Lakers versus Clippers first round is pretty possible now, says Michael George. When Klay comes back, are the Warriors championship contenders, says Sun Legend Zero? I think they are, depending on how he comes back. Jared Mercado says, do you have a team other than the Clippers that you genuinely like? No, not really. I'm Clippers through and through. I only got one basketball team. I love the game, though. So I like players. I don't really like a team. If you want to talk about history, though, 100%, if I was born in the 60s and 70s or 80s, I'd be a Laker fan, diehard. I would be 100%. But no, I mean, I kind of have a soft spot for the Celtics just because I went to school there, but not really. I would never want to see the Celtics win a championship. I like to see this Lakers and Celtics. You know what? I'd say the Knicks because I've always had a soft spot for them because they've have such good fans and they've just, in my lifetime, just been so poor. And I sympathize with the fans because I've been through a shitty owner that had the control of the team like that. So I'd say the Knicks probably. The Knicks and the Bulls because my mom went to school in Chicago. So I'd say those two. But if we're talking history, I'm a Laker nut. So Tony Parker or Russell? Tony Parker. Come on. Here's the thing. Again, if you want a guy that's going to carry a group of shitty players to the playoffs, Westbrook. If you want a guy that's going to win you championships, Tony Parker, bruh. Tony Parker was a nightmare. I could not. Oh, my goodness. Thank God we don't have to play him anymore. But Jesus, I do miss Tony, though. He was great. His floater, his teardrop, his spin, full speed in the lane in traffic, pick and pop, pick and roll, kick outs, extra pass, everything. Right? It says Steve Nash or CP3. That's an amazing comparison. I still go back and forth with it all the time. I think you can make cases for both guys. I really don't know. But I would have to give the edge right now if I had to pick to the guy, despite the fact that he's not as good at defense, to the guy that has taken his team to the conference finals 3 times and has won MVP twice. I would have to give the edge to him. Would Wilt do good in this era? Come on, Collins. Dang, you're a listener. You should know the answer to that. Jason Kidd did also get to the finals in the worse than ever Eastern Conference, but still made a 26-win team, a 52-win team. Yeah, it's fact. Showtime, Nick. Weak East, but still an accomplishment to get to the finals with that team. If we're going to praise LeBron for doing it, then we got to give Jason Kidd. That kid was ridiculous. Like, that team is crazy. That's like looking at it on paper. Heat fans trying to trade Bam now. Okay, well, that's ridiculous. Overreactions. Lake Show says Magic, Zeke, Steph, Kuzi. Oh, Kuzi, that's another one. J Kidd / Big O, honorable mention. West, Nash, Clyde, Tony Archibald, top 10. Top 1 to 10. I would have West over Kuzi. I mean, Kuzi's so influential, but I would just have West. I just think he's better. Same with Clyde. I'd have Kuzi over probably Tiny, though. Kuzi's a wizard, but I just love me some Jerry West and Oscar Robertson and Frazier. Darn, you're still sticking with your pick on the Lakers winning it all because I'm writing them off. The injuries and even when Bron comes back, we have not had enough time to sink. If it wasn't for the Clippers being the Clippers, I would say I agree with you, Raid. But right now, I still have a feeling that LeBron's got something planned. I really do. I just still can't bet against the Lakers, man. I can't. Nathan Cruz, man, I was saying the exact same thing that you just said. If Clippers play Lakers in first round, it'd be like that 2015 series against the Spurs. And that makes me very scared. You know why? Because if we beat the Lakers, I feel like it's going to be like the biggest thing in history of the Clipper. It will be the biggest thing in the history of the Clipper franchise. And everybody's going to go so crazy about it. And Laker fans are going to be so down bad. The Clippers are going to think that they've won the championship and then just collapse against someone and just get ridiculed like there's never been. Like even worse than ever before. That's my only fear with playing the Lakers first round and beating them. Greater than DeMar on the Raptors. Nash or Kidd, that's another tough-ass one. I've always been a Jason Kidd fan because his defense, that's a great comparison. Steve Nash offensively was better, but I love Jason Kidd. Oh, yeah. That's a really good shout, though. Simpleton Study Hall. This is kind of random, but since someone brought up Big Booty Lowry, a guy like Terry Porter at his peak was just as good or better. I agree. Terry Porter is freakishly underrated. Swishing and dishing. Willis Weed is up there. Yes, Willis Reed's a beast. Oh, yeah. Dennis Johnson is another one that's extremely underrated. How can somebody win a finals MVP and win 4 championships and be that underrated? Or no, he won 2 championships with the Celtics. No, he had 3 championships though overall. Yeah. Throw in Sidney Moncrief. Lowry definitely GOAT Raptor, says Intel Wild. Mark Jackson's definitely an underrated point guard. Fool's nice. Let's see. Man, imagine if Penny Hardaway hadn't gotten hurt. He would have 100% been in this conversation. Yeah, here's my thing about the hoops point. I feel you with the Chris Paul longevity. Here's my thing about the longevity. I feel like players that after 1990 have such a big advantage in the longevity category over players before because of the modern advancements in medicine and the rest and the masseuses and the therapy and like the strength and their training coaches. And it's just like, you know, you guys get serious injuries and you get a couple surgeries, you're cool. Like Chris Paul's had so many injuries. The fact that he's still playing at this level, I mean, it's obviously part of it him and how much he wants it, but like, I have no doubt in my mind that like if Oscar was in this era, like he would be playing like 18, 20 years. He played 14 years in that era. So like, I think that the longevity is hard because it gives the players like Jason Kidd who played 20 years and Nash who played like 17. It gives them such a big advantage over guys like Frazier who had like, you know, had like an 8-year prime, like just like, and after that, it was hard for him. Does Kawhi have a chance of what? Jonathan Jakob K says, Dime, what do you think is the reason of the decline in American white players over the year? Do you think the AAU is to blame? I think partially that. I think that I think this is part of it too. I think if the NBA wants a white guy, they go with Europeans because it brings in international audiences. Yeah. How far do you think Lakers are going to the playoffs this season? 360p Sprite. I still got them as my championship favorite. I do. What are my thoughts on the play-in, Jared? I think that it's not a terrible idea because it tries to incentivizes teams to not tank. But at the same time, I've not seen any urgency from some of these teams, except for maybe Westbrook's team. They all are just are okay with certain losses because they know they can be in the top 10 and still have a chance. Like, I just don't fuck with that. Yeah, no. This man, Kuzi, within those rules, Showtime Nick, was so good at him. Like, he just has the ball on a string. Like that shit's crazy. Okay, I gotta get off soon. Tracy McGrady did play for the Raptors, yes, in the beginning. Most overrated player in the league right now? I don't really tend to say guys are too overrated most of the time. Oh, I hate to say, nah, I'm not gonna say anything. I think we're just gonna have to let it play out. Darian, as you've been watching the 1960s, do you think Wilt Chamberlain's a better basketball player compared to the greats of our generation that you've watched? I think that's a debate. I think you can argue it all day long. That with the three you named, LeBron, Kobe, and Duncan, it's all a debate. It depends. He has a case, man. Wilt has a case over anybody to play basketball with the stats that he brought up and the talent that he had. Yeah, Grant Hill had them injuries too, man. Of course, I remember when the Warriors beat the Mavs, 2007. Longevity within eras, I feel, but how does that work? What do you mean longevity within eras? Like Havlicek playing 14 years, you're saying? No, yeah, CP3 definitely has elite longevity for this era. Do you think John Wall will ever be an all-star in this league again, or is he done? He's done. Love him, but he's done. For those coaches who say Stockton was overrated or he couldn't play, for those chooches who say Stockton was overrated or he couldn't play today, in 2002 at age 38, he put up similar numbers to prime MVP candidate Jason Kidd, says Simpleton Study Hall. Kobe is forever. Hey, yo, are you Kobe the forever that messaged me on Twitter the other day? I don't like the 7 seed is involved in the play-in, he says. Wilt could play in any era, of course. He would dominate in any era. Come on, this is Wilt Chamberlain. Raid, I don't know because you're asking me Kobe and Duncan, who I haven't seen their whole careers. If you're asking me if I think he's better than LeBron, I don't. I think LeBron's better because I think Wilt is like LeBron, but even more selfish and crazy. I think LeBron is better. Just because LeBron, like in the beginning of his career, Wilt didn't make anybody better, and LeBron still made his spot up shooters better in Cleveland, and certain guys like pick and roll men, like guys that didn't need the ball to succeed, he made them better. Even Mo Williams, he got the best out of him. So I like LeBron over Wilt. I like Kobe over Wilt too. I like all three of them over Wilt. I love Wilt, but I think he's just so conceited and like full of. He just loves his stats. But yeah. So there you go. No, that wasn't you. Okay. All right. For the 2010s, who do you think we'll see super underrated in 20 years? I'm taking Mitch Richmond type forgotten underrated. Mike Conley. I think Mike Conley is going to be slept on. I think John Wall in his prime is going to be slept on. I know he's 2000s, but Brandon Roy, my God. I think LaMarcus Aldridge is going to get slept on. Oh, you know who I'm talking to? You know who I think is going to be the most slept on player? David Lee. Do you guys remember how nice he was before the Warriors were winning championships? Like, that fool was nice. Yeah, only a couple lives left. But yeah, that's it for me tonight, guys. 50 minutes is good. We had a nice live tonight. We'll be back on Thursday for Clippers Lakers.